Every SQL Server has the capacity to contain multiple databases, and each database contains two primary files. The data file, which contains user data and system objects, like stored procedures, etc., and the log file or transaction log file, which contains the changes that are made to user data and also modifications that are made to any of the system objects. In many environments, you're going to get pushback from your disk or your SAN administrators saying, well, why does the SQL Server have to have so much space for the log files? Why does it even have to have the log file? Well, let me answer the second point first. SQL Server must have the log file or it's just not going to function. Why does the SQL Server have to log file have to have so much space? Because, well, it depends, and it depends on what kind of work the SQL Server is doing. So is it doing lots of small, tiny little transactions and doing many, many, many of them? Is it doing bulk data loads? Are the transactions long transactions, short transactions? So all of these put together will determine the amount of space that's required for a SQL Server transaction log file. SQL Server is going to use the space within the transaction log anytime it can. Anytime it can reuse that, it will free it up after commits and then simply reuse it. But occasionally it has to grab more space from the operating system. To find out how those log files are filling up, there's a simple command. It's called dbcc perf SQL perf, and the argument is log space. When you execute that, all of the databases that are on that instance of SQL Server, you're going to see by database name, the size of the log file, the percentage of space that's used. Status should always be 0. There's two ways you can configure the transaction log files on SQL Server. One is to auto grow, so if it needs more space, it'll just go out and grab another extent. So a 98% space used on an auto grow situation is not, don't be too concerned about that. However, if the log size has been hard-coded to max out at 2279 megs and you're 98% at capacity, then understand once you hit 100% and SQL Server needs to add another change to that transaction log file and it can't do it, it's going to stop all activity on the SQL Server. And that's all there is for right now.